Let's talk about those arguments. You know the ones. The ones you just can't seem to win. Well, today we're going to dig into a psychological tool that lets you win by not even playing their game. It's called the gray rock method, and honestly, it might just change how you deal with certain people in your life forever. Let's get right into it. So, picture this. You're just trying to talk something out, and bam, you're suddenly in the middle of a fight. You're explaining yourself, you're defending your position, you're trying to be reasonable, and it just makes everything worse. You walk away totally drained. Maybe your hands are even shaking a little, and you look over and they've got this little smirk. If that feels familiar, trust me, you are not alone. And if that scenario really hits home for you, you have to understand this. That feeling isn't a sign that you're bad at arguing. No, it's a sign that you've walked right into a very specific kind of psychological trap. See, you weren't actually having a debate at all. You were being used for something else entirely. And this right here, this gets to the absolute heart of the problem. You're both operating with completely different rule books. You think the goal is to find the truth, to work through a problem with facts and logic. But for them, the argument is not about who's right. It's about getting a reaction out of you. It's about something called supply. And that supply thing, it actually has a name, Narcissistic Supply. You can think of it as the psychological fuel these individuals get from your emotions. And here's the kicker. It doesn't matter if you're angry, frustrated, sad, or hurt. Any big emotional reaction you show them is a win. It's literally what they feed on to feel validated. So this is the trap. Every single time you try to explain your side, every time you defend yourself, you are just pouring gasoline on their fire. You're giving them exactly what they crave. So the more you engage on their terms, the more of your own peace and energy you're just handing right over. And that leads us to the old way of doing things, right? The common but totally useless strategies most of us fall back on. We think, if we're just logical enough, if we're clear enough, we'll win the day. But we're not even playing the same game. And wow, this quote just nails it, doesn't it? That feeling that if you could just find the perfect words, if you could just explain it clearly enough, they'd finally get it. But here's the tough pill to swallow. They don't want to understand. They want the reaction. They want the drama. So, if explaining doesn't work and defending yourself just makes it worse, what on earth are you supposed to do? Well, it's time we introduced a completely new strategy, a new weapon for your personal arsenal, the gray rock method. The core idea is actually beautiful in its simplicity. If they feed on your emotional reactions, you just stop giving them any. You make yourself as boring, as unresponsive, as utterly uninteresting as a plain old gray rock on the ground. And here's what that looks like in the real world. They throw an insult at you. You just say, okay. They accuse you of something completely ridiculous. You're entitled to your opinion. Now notice, you're not agreeing with them, but you're not fighting either. You are giving them absolutely zero emotional material to work with. Okay, so once you've gotten the hang of those basic one-word answers, there's an advanced level to this, and it's less about what you say and a lot more about a deep shift in your own mindset. You can think of it as the Masashi method. The absolute key here is to create genuine emotional distance. This isn't just about pretending to be bored. It's about training yourself to actually feel detached from their little drama tornado. And here is an incredibly powerful visualization exercise to help you get there. The next time you feel yourself getting sucked in, just pause, take a breath, and imagine your consciousness, your awareness, just kind of floating up to the ceiling. Look down on the whole scene, including your own body, like you're just watching a movie. And this right here is the critical difference. When you're a participant, you're down there in the mud, you're tangled up in it, feeding them the energy they want. But when you become an observer, you're outside of it all. You can see their tactics for what they are, just a clumsy, desperate attempt to get a reaction. And from that perspective, you're basically untouchable. So what happens when you really do this? When you successfully become a gray rock and master this observer mindset? What's the actual payoff? Now, I gotta warn you, be prepared for this. When you first cut off their supply, they don't just give up. Oh no, they escalate. They will try even harder, say even more outrageous things to provoke you, to get that emotional fix they're used to getting from you. But this is the most critical moment. You have to hold the line. If you can stay that boring, uninteresting gray rock, their provocations just have nowhere to land. Without your emotional fuel, they eventually just run out of energy. They starve. And this is pretty much what that starvation process looks like. First, they get confused. Wait, why isn't this working anymore? Then that confusion turns into frustration. But if you hold firm, eventually they have to disengage. It's like a predator that won't waste energy on prey it can't catch. They will simply move on and find an easier source of supply.
And that, right there, is the ultimate prize. Reclaiming your own peace, reclaiming your energy. This whole method isn't about beating them in an argument, it's about making the argument itself totally irrelevant. It truly is a superpower for protecting your own peace of mind.
So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. Who in your life needs to meet the gray rock? Understanding this whole dynamic is the first huge step. The next step is deciding where and with whom you're going to use it to reclaim your peace.